Wait, yes, I'm ready. Just took out my headphones at the last second there. Good morning to everyone out there in cryptocurrency land. It's a nice little Monday here. I woke up at 4:45. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all, in fact. So I've been abusing the caffeine this morning. And today, you know, I do think it's going to be kind of more or less a day like we've been seeing over the past few days. But ultimately, this week is likely a week that is going to catalyze the next real movement that we do see in this market. And, you know, still in the short term, I just want to kind of like get this out of the way. In the short term, just like last week, I'm still kind of favoring a bounce from these current regions. It would just make a lot more sense in the very, very short term. But pending this week's actions, there do still exist some very, 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 very severe things in the backgrounds here, which I just think, you know, the market's kind of like discounting as of right now. When I look across the social media venues, it is as usual bullish as fuck. I even heard from Mr. Tom Lee this morning, Bitcoin's going to $200,000 by December. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't, but hey, I feel like the market is currently on one side of this trade, or at least that's what I see in my very narrow-minded, microscopic view of the social media sphere. I know that some people are, what I also see some people saying is like, everyone's bearish, so I'm bullish. You know, from what I see, I mean, it seems like most people are bullish to me, but hey, at the end of the day, the market's going to do what it's going to do. And sentiment doesn't really matter, to be quite honest, because it's very, very difficult to measure. I mean, people who are looking at the fear and greed index, I don't know, good luck with that. If you're trying to, you know, parse through what people actually, you know, saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing the same actions as what they're saying. So it's very, very difficult to kind of gain anything off of that. But if I'm going off of what I see, it seems to me like there's a lot of optimism right now, which again, in the short term, I think Bitcoin and most of this market is kind of set up here to rally. I got Solana on my screen right now, just kind of perusing some of the usual shitcoins from, you know, from my list. And Solana seems to be the, you know, probably the biggest winner right now. This one's taking about a nice 4.5% leg up to the upside here. You know, still looking for likely more. We said last week, this one probably up to like maybe even 235 to 240-ish region. I still think that that's possible as this one continues with its nice, you know, upwards trend. Of course, we do see on the weekly time frame there is a bit of a rising pizza going on right here. I don't know if it's going to matter that much for this particular one, but we shall see. Time shall tell. Time is the great analyzer. It's a great equalizer, and we got several familiar faces in here as well. I love it. Pete J says, I'm bearulish. I know, bearulish. I'm droolish, man. That's what I was doing my fucking pillow last night. I have the best pillow, by the way. I have the best fucking pillow of all time, all right? If you want a good pillow, it really matters. Honestly, it really matters. Go to Purple, or what is it called again? It's Purple. Yeah, the company's called Purple. It's honestly, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. Very, very cool. It's always fluffy, but it's not too hard, and it feels very nice, and it doesn't get too damn hot. Oh man, I fucking love it. What's up, Nikki Page? We thrive on the hate. Yes, we need more hate in this world. We need to balance everything out. People are too much on the lovey-dovey side. They're too much on the, you know, kumbaya, herpity-derpity, empathetic side. Look, I even fucking, my real estate agent was trying to sell me on her empathy. I'm like, I don't want fucking empathy. What I want is you to sell my fucking apartment. Okay, fuck off with this. I almost said some very offensive things, and it was just a reaction. I would never actually think that personally. It's just bad conditioning from my youth. Look, I grew up in the 90s when that was a very common insult. Okay, I don't actually think that way. But hey, I almost said it, and I will be very, very honest about that. And yeah, I don't want any of that bullshit. I want you to do your fucking job. I want a highly competent agent to do their job. Crazy, crazy fucking idea. But nowadays, it seems that I think we're kind of getting past this, like, you know, lefty herpity derp fucking empathy bullshit. Look, empathy is not bullshit, but people have weaponized it in such a bullshit way. It's like, look, your job is to do this, okay? I'm great that you're empathetic, but I want my fucking tax auditor to be empathetic, not you, okay? You go do your job, sell the fucking apartment. How about that, okay? Anyways, she's not doing a very good job. She's getting fired. Anyways, yeah, so I have a purple pillow in bed. The pillow is very heavy, though. Really? It's heavy? Mine's, you got to get the latex one, man. The latex one is the one to go with. Go work, go broke. I think he meant go woke, go broke. I guess a little bit of that, yeah. But it does seem to me that that dark cloud is starting to pass. I've already gone on my Twitter for the early morning for my usual Monday conditioning with terrible information from all sides. Mainstream media of all types, left and right, is absolutely fucking despicable. Holy shit! I love that saying now. I used to think that this was just some some dummy stuff, but that saying, you don't hate the mainstream media enough. I mean, look, both sides of it are just despicable. They're just fucking despicable. The things that come out or also don't come out of their mouths. It's just unbelievable. I read a fucking article about how RFK Jr. is dangerously healthy, for hiking up the mountains when it was very warm in jeans. This is bad. People should not be following this. Like, Jesus Christ, you fat fucking moron. Oh my God, God forbid you actually get some real exercise in your life. Jesus Christ, what a backwards fucking thought you could possibly have. Anyways, what we want is full-on market rally and altcoin cycle, says Aaron. Do your job, buyers. That's right. Do your job, buyers. You need to buy because we deserve it, man. And I really need it. Okay, I took this loan and it has really high interest rate. And I promise if you just buy, I promise I will maybe, I'll do something for you in the future. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of that is about. Ray now says, hey, Crown, hope you're doing well. I'm looking at BAJFINANCE. Is that, or BAJFINANCE? Actually, I'm curious to know what even that is. Is that Bank of Japan Finance? Yes, on NSC. I'm literally just curious, man. That's why I'm bringing this up right now. Really fucking good, obviously. I mean, this is just a nice, very steady, very long-term, very powerful, very girthy, very fucking beautiful uptrend. That is what I love to see. Okay, contrast this chart, which is a beautiful fucking chart, with the average shitcoin chart that we're gonna view probably 100 times during this stream, which looks literally the same in every fucking format. If they go only down and to the right, it's great. No, it's terrible. Probably a shitcoin. If it goes up and to the right like this, it's amazing. It's actually amazing. Is this another higher low? Fucking looks like it to me, man. After a 3 to 4 year long base from 2021 with rising lows all the way until January of 2025, freshly breaking out. To me, that's the first pullback, higher low continuation. Beautiful. Just don't make it any more complicated than that. Absolutely amazing, man. Absolutely fucking amazing. That's what I love to see in a long-term chart. That's something that's actually worth perhaps even investing in long-term. Crazy idea. No, man, I love the down and to the right charts. I love to invest when it's low because it can only go to zero. It's like, oh God, logical fallacies in investing are absolutely hilarious because it really proves the economic principle that humans are not rational at fucking all. That's one of the first things that you learn in your economic courses in university, which by the way, were completely worthless in my opinion. I learned very, very little in university, but hey, that was one thing that was kind of useful at least. All of the psychology stuff and philosophy stuff that I learned in college was actually quite useful. But everything else, man, just like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck was I doing there? Anyways, yeah, Chart of the Day award. Exactly. What is Pudgy Penguin? What is Pudgy Penguin? That is a good question. Probably a down and to the right chart, as are most things. We don't even need to pick on Pudgy Penguins. It's mostly all of them. It's literally most. Look, bigoted, you can, honestly, biases and being bigoted, if you have a good reason for it, it's a good thing, okay? Shitty charts, if it's an altcoin, 99% of the time it's going to be a shitty chart. You should probably just be bigoted towards that. Anyway, sending you a side eye of hostility from England. That's exactly how the English do it, or like with a very nondescript face as well, like no emotions on it, just a blank stare. That's the Finnish way. Also, just mostly Europeans, again, bigoted towards that as well. Aaron says gold is breaking out another all-time high live. Let's check it out. Actually, I'm curious to see that. It is interesting to look at stuff that's actually moving right now, and yeah, gold moving to the upside here. That does make me a little more concerned as well for, typical risk on assets. But yeah, this is a fresh new all-time high breakout. We started to get bullish on this thing back on over here off of that higher low. Beautiful follow through. And I think that this thing just continues more and more from here. Again, this is why I have one of those major rules on a higher term time frame like this. When you're above all major moving averages, it's just not wise to be bearish. And we've seen this actually with a few cryptos as well. Certainly not as good as this, but yeah, this one, looking for more, obviously. I mean, shit, even just looking at this as what would be some sort of an ascending triangle right here, there would be implied move to be made off of this. Let's see what it'd be. I think it's probably getting close to current price action, maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, still a little bit higher, somewhere around 3,700. Not necessarily saying that things have to like reverse there, but you know, probably at least get somewhere around there, pulls back, maybe continues more, some shit like that, man. But yeah, gold continuing with the rally. I think silver probably is doing the same shit. That one's been looking pretty damn good as well. Again, I don't even own these things. Like I probably should own some actual commodities like this, but I don't. But I don't. Mikey B says, very ready to be rich as fuck. You think so, but you probably are not. Mo money, mo problems is a very, very real thing. What's up, Cav B? But yeah, man, more money, more problems in normal English. But if you're speaking Ebonics, then it's mo money, mo problems. And that is true. That is from a hood philosopher, and he is 100% right about that, man. But they're better problems to have. It's better problems to have when you have that money. Anyways, yes, the resting bitch face, like they are looking at a blank wall and thinking about light bulbs. Actually, extremely accurate, Mr. Craden. Extremely fucking accurate. A lot in America as well, not gonna lie. There's a lot of that in America. You usually see it at Walmart or like a gas station at 2 a.m. There'll be a lot of that kind of shit. But yeah, in Europe, it's just kind of your daily average person, man. It's just your daily average person, unfortunately. Bjorn BCY says, smash likes for more pump. Smash likes for more pump. Fuck yeah, man. We got definitely a Nordic person in here. We love Nordic people. Great people, terrible governments, but great people. How's Elsa's Bonkinator 9000? I think it's called the Pleasure Giver Herpety Derp Infinity. It's good, man. It's really good. More frittata. I don't know what the hell that's about, but it sounds like unnecessary carbs to me, man. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. That as well, man. Some more hood philosophy. I love it. Hating from Mars. We are an international and also intergalactic community. Love it. Fucking love it. Or interplanetary. I don't think intergalactic because that's still the same galaxy, right? Gallo, as always, trying to take every goddamn meta signal setup that exists to man. Maybe just focus on a couple, my man. Maybe just focus on a couple. That's always smart as well, in my opinion. Crown, have a look at some stocks. Actually, I would like to look at some stocks here for my own benefits. Let's look at some of the major indices, just see kind of how they're opening up this new week. SPY, the market that never goes down. I don't know, man. Crazy idea here, but I think there might be some new all-time highs. Yes, you are at the 2.272 Fibonacci extension from the major base from the 2022 bear market. I mean, is that even a fucking bear market? It was just a year-long slump. I mean, that's really not a big deal, to be honest. But looking at it here, man, again, respect the trend. You just had a monthly breakout as of June. 3 months of continuation. There's going to be another correction at some point as well, but upwards is the most likely direction here. Again, as long as we're above 62.50, just this higher low that we saw from late July / early August, the direction is up. The direction is up. Don't need to get any more complicated than this, man. Look at the fucking quarterly. Quarterly close as a bullish engulfing. We see continuation. Surprise, surprise. I wouldn't be surprised to see more continuation coming into the next quarter as well, assuming this one doesn't completely shut the bed before end of September, which I don't think it's going to, but yeah. I get that probably also bodes well here for Bitcoin. Again, in the short term, it's hard for me not to see Bitcoin try this rally more to the upside. I will pin your message. Just one moment. All right, Elsa's message needs to be pinned because... there we go. Complaining not allowed. That's very, very important. Complaining not allowed. We don't do any complaining. I've also banned complaining as well from Elsa, so she's not allowed to do any of that. It's really beautiful, honestly. If you have a significant other, just tell them, hey, no complaining. I banned it. And then they're just, they don't really know how to handle it. Is the Quant Prime AI trial still available? You can still get a 7-day free trial. You don't need a code or anything like this. You just need to go into the Teachable link in the description below, find the Quant Prime AI, and it's just built into the monthly subscription. So it'll give you 7 days free. After that, of course, it will charge you, but you can cancel before that if you decide it's not for you. But what I really would suggest if you're going to get into something like the Quant Prime AI and maybe you're a little bit newer, is first, don't just jump into it. First, get a base of understanding of, of things. You can do this through my free content on YouTube or other people's free content as well. And then once you actually have a base, then perhaps try to leverage something like that because, otherwise you're just going to waste your 7 days for free. And I mean, what do you get out of it? Probably not much, in that case. You need a base of knowledge first to really maximize the experience with that, at least in my opinion. Stop complaining and get back to the kitchen, says Pete J. Yeah, there's also a lot of that as well, except Elsa's not much of a cooker, but she is a cleaner, which is really, really nice. I like to cook, however. How were your eggs that I made this morning? Two not done. Wait, really? Oh, damn. Okay, my apologies. I actually did not do a good job with them. Again, just rushing around after massively underslept. Crypto Crow says, Crow your coins, liftoff is coming. I don't know what the hell that means, but I like crows and I like Crypto Crow. And I've also heard about the power of the crows from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Anytime I think about crows, I think about eating crow eggs. Apparently, they're very nutritious. Yeah, looking at NASDAQ futures here as well. I mean, again, this is just obviously bullish. Like, this is obviously bullish. Last week on a daily, it's going to be yet another higher low and a series of higher lows. That becomes a new pivot. I mean, it is, like I said, I really do think Bitcoin and most cryptos are heading up in the short term here. What I'm concerned about is later this week. But, you know, let's let the fun party emerge first and then see where things kind of fall as they may. But what about the other big ones? Where's Coinbase trading pre-market? Actually, I guess a little bit of an up open right there, but that does not look great to me, man. That actually does not look great at all to me. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, I mean, maybe this one tries to rally as well, but I do not think that this thing is moving significantly to the upside anytime soon. What are the ones that we got on my list here? A lot of things struggling actually recently, so seems like the usual suspects are holding up this market, but hey, it's a winner take all game, or a very few amount of winners take all, and that is the way that it is. It's always sunny. It's best. It really is, man. It's awesome. There's another show. Oh my God, man. Okay, after I talk about the show, I promise we'll get into the analysis, but we've been watching live TV recently because, as I said, we got like this shitty TV that for some reason just gives it to you for free. And I refound this show that I used to watch in the early 2000s. This was around the time of It's Always Sunny, but this show is also fucking epic. I actually never even realized how fucking hilarious it is. Reno 911. Does anyone remember this show? You have to be in like your 30s or 40s by this point to really remember this show, but holy shit, you need to go back to that show if you haven't in the past. There's some fucking genius in these shows, man. It's so good. It's so fucking good, Reno 911. Just hilarious, man. Anyways, some crow milk. No money, no problems isn't working either. Can I afford some small fries soon by holding the Cardanos? Dare I even look at the Cardanos? I don't know. This one actually was setting up decently compared to most things as well. So perhaps this one actually would be following through. I'd imagine the Cardanos, the Lynx, the Solanas, even the doggy coins. Yeah, they're looking something like this. Again, above all major moving averages on a monthly, like, can't get bearish as long as you're above them. And last week's low is going to be the next higher low for this thing. So as long as this thing's above last week's low, actually this should be really treated as like a major pivot, but that also implies the same on the other side. It's kind of like a double-edged sword here. Anywhere below last week's pivot and back down well below 70 cents, probably even all the way back down to like 60 cents if that happens. But for right now, like, give things a chance to rally. Leave my shit coins alone. Need that fucking Britney guy, but to dub him in with AI to talk about shitcoins. Anyways, maybe that's a project for another time. I need to find I need to find someone great to work with in that. Maybe Frost can do that. All right. I'm getting lost in the comments right here. I'm getting lost in the sauce. Lev Ashton says Cardanios syndrome. Yeah, some Cardaniosism. Yeah, Reno 911 is the tits, says Cousin Burley. Fuck yeah. I'm glad that someone recognizes it. What's up, Basti? Yeah, that was a great show. Funny shit. That 911 says Jeff Mosby. Yeah, man, great times. Ninja 3 says, am I really at an age where people don't know Reno 911? Yeah, I think that was discontinued in the 2000s, man. So for sure. Anyways, let's get through some Bitcoin analysis so we can have some fun chat times as well. Maybe referencing some more Reno 911. He's from the future. God, a fucking great one, man. This guy's robbing a bank and he's like, I am from the future. And then the cops from Reno 911 are like, holy shit, he's from the future. We need backup. Anyway. Oh my God, the pedophile skit was so fucking good too. They're running their... Okay, I need to explain this to the Europors of the world. In America, we have actually some great laws, in fact. If you are a convicted pedophile or sexual offender, these sort of things, whenever you move into a new house, you actually have to let your neighbors know. You have to go around to your neighbors with a police officer assisting you, telling them that you are an SA and you are moving in near them and you need them to sign off on a list, on sort of some sort of a government thing or some sort of a police thing that you are aware and you are okay with it. And so this guy's walking around, it's like doing his best to fucking hide the fact that he's that he's some sort of a pedophile, and he's like, yeah, I just moved in over here and, I do this and that and I'm a little bit of a pedophile and I've been convicted. And then also, God, so fucking good. And then he like asked the person who lives here, he's like, okay. And so I just need you to sign off on this and everything good, right? And they're like, what? By SA, do I mean child? I mean, that's a very nice term that we call our minor attracted peoples now, okay? We don't want to call them pedophiles. That's a mean word, okay? We're not being very empathetic to their disgusting behaviors. We should call them minor attracted people, okay? They're people too, right? We need more empathy for the criminals than we do for those that are criminalized against. Amazing, amazing idea. Anyways, let's get into some price action statistics for this highly esteemed magic internet money. Monday is the most likely day to see any sort of a positive closure from open to close since this bull market began in 2023, with 53.5% of all Mondays closing positively in that period, with a pretty high average return for those positive closing Mondays. That would be just under 2.5%. In the event that we have seen negative closing Mondays, it actually has been the worst negative return out of any weekday at just under 2%, or 191 if you want to be exact. Again, putting this into perspective in terms of price action to the upside, that would give us a boundary at around 113,900, and to the downside an area of interest at about 109 even. If Bitcoin is going to try one of these sides today, I imagine to probably be the top side of that. And so if you do see an approach of that 113,900-ish number, you're probably going to see a pullback on the first pass. Again, we've seen this 1,000,001 fucking times at this point. If you're a short-term time frame trader, I think this is really, really important to pay attention to, because these moves typically are scalpable. Again, if you're on the very, very short-term time frames, not looking for huge, tremendous moves. These are hitting singles with a bunt rather than trying for the home run. Anyways, moving on from there, we did have, of course, a very big event on Sunday, which was the new moon, or it's not a new moon. This is actually technically a full moon, but it's the new moon, which is also a full moon. And these are typically the bullish ones that have propelled price action to the upside, which we can see, just with kind of a visual test right here. I've also gone ahead and done this with the skeleton key using the Quant Prime service and found that in the past 10 years, just blindly opening up a long when that new moon or when that moon comes about freshly, and then closing that when the next two-week period expires, which propels the next moon, that has actually been profitable in and of itself almost 55% of the time, with the profit factor of 1.5. Here would be your kind of equity curve if you were looking, or if you were doing that over the past 10 years. So not bad in that case. Again, certainly not optimized, but does give a little bit of a bullish bias perhaps for these next couple of weeks. Again, as we have gone over in the past, technically the last 2 weeks of September are traditionally upside weeks, where we have seen, 80% of the time Bitcoin actually does close positively between the 15th and the 30th of September. But that's a topic for another video, we've already discussed that in several videos of the past. But again, helping out with the short-term bullish bias, at least in my opinion, still, I don't think it's wise to rule out Bitcoin just yet here, even though, yes, I do think Bitcoin is still likely to come lower, and that I don't necessarily think that this correction is done just yet. But are we in a rally phase after basically 3 weeks of straight down? I do think so, yes. Anyways, on top of this, if we were to go on to the same setup that we were looking at from last week's video, this is a meta signal setup. It's still active, by the way. Obviously, target number 1 has already been hit. That has a very, very high probability at just under 74.25% probability to be hit, but obviously that, was already met. Target number 2, however, is 117 and change. That has a just over 57.5% probability to be hit. I think that's kind of like the upper bound of what we might see on this rally, somewhere between there and perhaps like 115, but, that is in the cards. To technically speaking, a little bit more likely than a coin flips probability. Target number 3, a lot less, however, at 45.5% probability. That would be, might as well be $120,000, because if something like that does happen, I would imagine Bitcoin's just moving to new all-time highs from there. If we were to see target number 3 hit, I don't think things would necessarily stop there. So kind of my range for this rally is between about 115 to 117, more or less. If we go ahead and reference the daily stochastic momentum oscillator, again from last week, week. This was also helping out with the short-term bullish buys. Again, just short-term. I need to be very, very clever, or sorry, very, very considerate in how I relate the different time frames for these analyses, because I think that's where a lot of, things can kind of get distorted or maybe misheard. I think that this is probably just, telling grandma how to suck eggs for the non-lobotomized people out there in the world. But for right now, we'll speak directly to the lobotomized fucking morons of this world. In the very, very short term, yeah, still likely upside. Medium and long term, still probably, I'm still leaning towards a deeper correction overall from what we've seen. But in this case, the daily stochastic momentum also continues with upside pressure here as long as Bitcoin's above 110 by the end of today. But here's the thing. We do notice that there is a nice trendline regression governing the last couple highs from the current high, or sorry, the first major high in July, and then the current all-time high in August. So if and when we do approach this, which will very likely happen, I would imagine latest by Wednesday, which also coincides with one of the major events. Of course, you got Fed meeting coming out a little bit later this week. If we start to see it hit around here and then turn down, I think that would be a really good indication that whatever rally we've seen is now ending its phase, and I would start to lean towards downside more or less. But we'll see how things interact when it does get to that point. Until then, I just think that it's better to be expecting at least a little bit more short-term upside. Of course, in the short term, we can look at last Thursday's high, which was 113,420. Great number right there. If Bitcoin were to trade above there, especially close a daily above there, very likely at that point, I think we're going to see something between these two numbers. Again, the same kind of ones that we were looking at earlier. A little bit higher than what I was stating earlier, but let's just call it 115.5 to 117.5, somewhere around there, I think would be fair game. If, again, you were to see anywhere above last Thursday's high. Again, last Thursday's high of 113,420, big pivot for this market right now, as that was the prior rejection. But yeah, moving on from there, I did want to actually get back to my notes because I herpy-derped it. And let's see. Okay, yes, boom, boom, boom. And then we also, yes, we've all spoken about, last week we were calling this the bounce on the weekly. HPDR, still kind of the same shit over here. As far as the daily goes, yes, the weekly did hold above the 38.2 level. Okay, good, yes. Yeah, it's hard not to see it try a little bit more of a bounce from this region. Daily time frame, we can see the median coming in at 113,300. If we were to see a closure above there, I'd say that's also probably good enough to get that rally somewhere between 115,500 to 117,500, somewhere in this vicinity right here. So again, the HPDR kind of agreeing with what we just looked at on the prior chart. On top of this, we also did we confirm hidden bullish divergence here? I actually did not check this one before this stream, so let's double check this first, because I believe there was, in my notes, potential weekly hidden bullish divergence. Yes, there is potential for it. There is a lower low compared to the low from June, which was all the way down here at about $100,000. So is it still there? No, it is not confirmed just yet because we do not have a clear stop and reverse point. But again, above 113,420, that will start to populate as hidden bullish divergence. And I think actually we could very well see 117 from there. Definitely possible, but again, requires a move at least above last week's high, preferably a closure on a daily above last week's high of 113,420. To see something like that, I'd feel very, very confident towards this move, continuing upwards and onwards. Anyways, we got US markets just opened 9 minutes ago, so hopefully things start actually moving in the short term. But here's the thing, I did want to refocus sort of the, I guess, more long term here, that while I do think, in the short term, if there's going to be a rally, this would really be the time for it. I want to be super fucking clear in stating this. I still think that it's not my thoughts. Look, the probability of this thing coming lower over time is still very much present. We've spoken about the 3-day setup over here, the 3-day interaction between the red and yellow moving averages, which has in general gotten a minimum correction to the green moving average, which we have actually not seen happen precisely just yet. It got very close last week on that move down to 107 and change, but technically speaking, it did not fulfill the minimum condition. And again, that is a minimum condition. We've actually never seen things really stop there. If we go to the most recent iteration over here, things dropped actually decently lower below there. If we take from the minimum corrective measurement to the actual low of that move, that was another 15%. If we go to the one before that, well, again, it would be about here to the low. That's 20% actually, which is kind of fucking crazy. This one over here, this one to the next low was about 16%. So You know, I might be undershooting this. I'm guessing these ones over here are probably a lot less, but let's just see. Hold on, let me take off my damn magnet. My magnet, 8%, okay, 8% differential. This one over here, pretty damn close, I think. Let's see, this one over here, about 3%. So yeah, fair enough. Not that much on that first one, but still, you know, below it. None have stopped above it. And well, again, minimum correction means minimum correction. So I do look at that as still relevant. It's just, can we rally first? Sure. I mean, we've seen that before. We've seen that before over here. You got the signal for the correction. Boom, Bitcoin rallies back up close to those last highs. In fact, on a closing basis, it was more or less the same as those highs, and then comes down later. It can take some time. Sometimes it gets hit nearly immediately. In this case, you know, seeing as last week it kind of didn't really take its chance to do that, I imagine we probably see a rally first. At least that's kind of my bias. And then, of course, this setup can be applied to the 4-day time frame as well, which is likely going to confirm a similar cross. However, as of right now, it's not there just yet. As of right now, we are going to see another 4-day closure by tomorrow. Not tonight, but by tomorrow. And any sort of a closure below the yellow moving average, which is at 111,900, should force that cross to naturally happen. But right now, Bitcoin's obviously above it. And like I said, in the short term, Bitcoin more, I mean, I'd be favoring at least a short-term attempt at a rally. And so if Bitcoin, you know, if Bitcoin reclaims that level by tomorrow night's closure, then that will be averted. I'm curious if we have any other timeframes that are close to confirming that. Maybe the 3-day on CME, kind of getting close there. We'll get another update tomorrow, but it's not quite there just yet. I'm curious to see where that one updates tomorrow, but I imagine it's probably not going to close unless if we really see a big dump today, which I don't think is going to happen. 5-day time frame on spot, perhaps. Same thing over here as well. Just got a new update on this one. You know, it's getting close. It's getting very, very close, but it's not quite there just yet. So yeah, those ones kind of baking in the background. And then, of course, all the stuff that we spoke about last week pertaining to sort of the more, I guess, long-term in this case, they still are very much present as well. And if you do want to go with the Pazzinos rule, I saw that Jason called this one out. I think it was yesterday or the day before that, whatever it is, the 3-week down rule, also based off of the 3-day down rule as well. You know, that was confirmed on the, you know, on those last 3 weeks coming off of the all-time high. So ultimately, you know, all these things together, I mean, I think that we get a bounce here. I think the bounce might even be like pretty big, honestly, but I still see a lot more corrective signals in the sort of, you know, over the next month or two, rather than continuation signals to new highs. I hope I'm wrong about that. But again, that's just what I'm seeing based off of the probabilities. Again, reference last week's video for that, because we went into like a pretty big deep dive for that. But again, that does not change the short term. The short term, I mean, this is the time to rally. And as we have seen several altcoins today, you know, the shitcoins, they are looking actually demonstrably better than Bitcoin in many cases. A lot more constructive on the short term, that is. Anyways, that's about it for me. Let's get into some actual shitcoin analysis here. Everyone's favorite time, I suppose. Mr. N. Wong says, I'm a cave dweller and don't know what to do with all my coins around me. What kind of coins do you have, sir? What kind of coins do we have? Do you have a corn moon? Because it actually is a corn moon as of a couple days ago. But apparently that just refers to like literally it's a corn harvest. That's what's being harvested, I guess, or something like this. Anyways, also known as a blood moon, and might be a corn dog. Elsa had her first corn dog at her first baseball game too. Yeah, listen, I hope you're not wrong because I want to buy more at a discount. Well, we shall see, man. We shall see. At the end of the day, it's not myself being right or wrong. It's just me reading off the probabilities. Hopefully I do the math right on that, because that's what I can be right or wrong on. But I'm quite confident on that. Anyways, yeah, the probabilities still significantly favor that. The question to me is, do we get, you know, a pretty decent bounce here or not? Anyways, let me see what else has already lined up for myself, and I'll take a few more sips of this. Oh, dropping some water all over myself too. Need a sippy cup. Anyways, we have Cartman's BTC first. Says, morning crown, DFDV on the 4-hour and daily. Sure, ma'am. So this is like a Solana DeFi thing on traditional markets. I actually bought this thing, full disclosure. I'm actually going to sell it though. I'm going to rebalance, and this is just not a winner in my opinion. Look, do I think it can bounce here? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it's kind of like Bitcoin. It's like, is it going to drop? Is it going to drop from here? Is it going to rally first and then drop? I don't know. I'm looking at the monthly here. Yes, it is above major moving averages, but a little bit too new for this one. Anyways, you're focused on the daily time frame and the 4-hour time frame, so I won't focus on those higher term time frames. For the 4-hour time frame and the daily time frames, both are in downtrends as of right now. Your last price action pivot high was 17 bucks and 60 cents. As long as you're below there, you know, it is a downtrend and more likely to come back down to these lows of 13 and a half, 13 and a quarter or so. That also implies on the other side, if this asset can pop back above that Wednesday high from last week, you know, we should see a nice rally attempt back up to like 20 bucks or so. But overall, kind of range bound on the lows, not really in a strong position. And I don't know if I had to call it here. Do I think it's going to try a rally? I think most things are going to try a rally across markets just in general to open up this week. But yeah, I'd still be a little bit more cautious with something like this as long as you're below, again, last Wednesday's high at minimum. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, you could rally up all the way to like 16 and a half, 17 bucks. It'd still be another lower high, to be fair. And if you're on the daily, by the way, the daily pivot is 20 bucks and 40 cents. That would be the Friday, the 22nd of August high. So that's probably the really big one, meaning that, you know, if you want to be a little more on the conservative side, a little more safe, I'll be waiting for that level to get taken out. And then, yeah, this thing can actually run quite a fair bit. I mean, at that point, you might see like a 30 to 40% move, to be honest, somewhere up to like 28 to 30 bucks. But until then, I do not like the way that this looks, to be honest. I think that generally this one's a lot more likely to come back down here than it is to pop back up to 30 plus in the sort of, I don't know, the next couple months, let's say. This one's highly volatile, by the way, as well. I've been kind of watching it. Anyways, Steven Schickman says, GM, doggy, please. Daily, weekly. I got you, man. And I got my doggy derps over here as well. And I believe last week we set out a short-term pivot at around 22 and a half cents. Said, hey, if that gets taken out, you're looking at a nice move towards about a quarter. Very close to that already with a high today of just under 24 cents. So getting up there. Let's see what the daily and weekly look like, though. Daily, yeah, I still think that this thing spikes a little bit higher, maybe closer to like 24 and a half to 25 cents or so. You know, again, big twist to the upside here on the daily stochastic momentum oscillator alongside extremely low volatility. You know, I generally like that setup. And, you know, it's the same thing here on the monthly, man. You're above all major moving averages. Monthly stochastic momentum is actually going to freshly cross the upside as well. If this thing finishes September above 17 cents. Kind of a weird looking regression right there. I don't think that one necessarily counts, but hey, I'd say the same thing as what I've been telling you before, man. As long as this thing's above all major moving averages on the monthly, I think it's okay for hopium. I also think in the short term, this thing probably tries a little bit more upside. It's had the majority of this move already, but fair enough. You know, I don't see why not anymore. Where would I call this one a failure? Probably back below that 22 cent pivot. So back below there, I'd say, hey, this thing is highly questionable again. Until then, I'd give this one the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, let the trend be your friend and let this one just kind of float its way to the upside. Weekly momentum also twisting back up here too if it can remain above, yeah, that same pivot of 22 cents. So 22 cents, big one. As long as it's above there, I'd generally be pretty lenient towards it and favoring the upside, especially with Bitcoin and just markets in general looking the way that they are. But the second that it comes back down below 22 cents is the second that I'd say, hey, man, it's time to throw that hopium away. So, yeah, continuing with the very slow molasses move here, but it is starting to populate. So that is important, of course. Go with Boris says, good morning from Brazil. Fuck yeah, man. Hope everything's all good in Brazil. Or Brazil-y. Brazil-lo. Right now, yep, we already looked at BCHUSD. Nice one, man. I do think that is another higher low. Looks really fucking good. Get with the hype says MU Micron. Okay, let's see this one. What do I know Micron from? I feel like I know this from somewhere. Overall, I like the chart. I like what it's doing. Monthly time frame making new highs. Yeah. Weekly, a very nice and obvious uptrend. Maybe in the short term, you see a pullback down to 125. I think that's completely fine, honestly. Ultimately, I think that this thing will find its way back up towards 140 plus, more or less just testing the prior highs. Like, this is good, man. This is good. Again, quarterly right here. Overall, very, very good in my opinion. I don't need to ask about it, but look, this is just don't need to make it any more complicated than this. It's a fucking strong chart. You got higher highs, higher lows the whole way through. It's beautiful. Like, we love that. We fucking love that. So, yeah, in the short term, you might see a little bit of downside, but I wouldn't necessarily call it bearish. I just think, you know, you're just getting a pullback and an overall uptrend. Overall, I'd be massively bullish on this thing as long as you're above last Tuesday's low, my birthday, at 114 and a quarter. Below there, yeah, this thing falls apart a little bit, but until then, look, it's good. Don't need to make it any more complicated than that. Up, 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 and to the right, sir. Was going to go long on TRX with a meta signal on the 6 hour, but I saw a flash dump over the weekend. Don't fucking watch price on the weekend, for the love of God. Holy shit. Let me show you a statistic right here. Like, you are wasting your fucking time on the weekend. For real. Like, holy shit, fuck. Do something else. Okay? Do something else. Look, I'm not your dad. I'm not your mom. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but do something else, man. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Look, do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to look at price action on the weekend, do that. But be aware. Look at the average gains, basically volatility on Saturday. It is a third, less than a third in many cases of what we see during the weekdays. You're wasting your fucking time, for the love of God, man. Even Sunday's pretty bad as well. And you have, regular markets opening up for futures trading on Sunday. So, you'd kind of expect a little bit more, and you do get a little bit more there, but still very, very boring, man. Very rarely does anything of significance happen over the weekend. Yes, it does happen every once in a blue moon, but for fuck's sake, that's really every once in a blue moon. Like, I shouldn't talk shit about these people, but look, whenever I see people in the Discord, like, arguing over fucking price action on the weekend, like trading a 15-minute, I'm just like, oh my God, man, what the fuck are you doing? You have lost your goddamn minds. Like, go play a video game, for fuck's sake. Like, seriously, you're going to be more productive playing a fucking video game than trying to figure out price action over a weekend when mostly nothing is happening. Look, this asset, Bitcoin, trades on a traditional market schedule at this point. There's ETFs, there's futures. It's very integrated in traditional markets. So you're on a traditional market fucking schedule. Surprise, surprise. Crazy idea. Anyways, man, you want to look at Tron. Oh God, and you also want to trade the signals on, like, just trade the Bitcoin ones, man. You're going to have plenty. You're going to have fucking plenty with that shit. Maybe sometimes consider Ethereum. But for the love of God, you don't need to trade a highly illiquid piece of literal shit like this. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. Okay, I'm not telling you to do that because I'm not your fucking financial advisor. But look, if I was in your situation, man, what the fuck are you thinking? What the fuck are you doing? Anyways, yeah, exactly. The last part of your sentence. When I see stuff like this, I'd rather not trade. No shit. Really? Like, that's the issue with this with pieces of garbage like this, which is 99% of shit in this market. You get stuff like this. Even Bitcoin sometimes does shit like this too, man. That's my point. Bitcoin is volatile enough. You don't need to get crazy with these things. So yeah, I would not take meta signal setups over the weekends as well. I do not trust signals that I generally get on the weekends. You can on the Quant Prime service over here, you can back test certain days of the week, and I can assure you, Saturday and Sunday are notorious for being fucking terrible for otherwise successful strategies during the usual weekday. Like, almost every signal points to just fucking off during the week, or sorry, fucking off during the weekend, that is. So yeah, Get With The Hype says, okay, another stonk, ASML on daily and weekly. All right, cool. Let's look at some stonks. I like stonks. Stonks are cool. Okay, this one doesn't trade too much, but I mean, at least it goes up into the right, so we like that, of course. Anyways, you're looking at a daily and a weekly. This looks to me like yet another higher low. Momentum's freshly turning up on low volatility. I'd be looking for this one to retest the highs of July at like 830-ish region. Does it break out above there or not? I don't know. I think given enough time, it likely will, just because that's just what this thing does. Winners win, and this is a winning chart. It's going to win more, most likely, over time. And what do you know, on the monthly, a beautiful monthly higher low here as well. I mean, whether it's now or whether it's in a couple months, I don't fucking know, man, but I do think that is going to be coming back up towards 900 plus. I don't know, probably before end of year, something like that, man. Overall, good. Just give it a little bit of time to breathe, my man. Give it a little bit of time to breathe. Of course, should come up with an invalidation where I'd get obviously bearish on this thing. That would be below 715 or last Tuesday's low, the 2nd of September. As long as you're above there, you got a nice little uptrend. Respect the trend. The trend is your friend. It wants to be your friend too. It wants to hold your hand. It wants to sing you stories at night. It wants to be your lover if you will let it, but you fight the trend all the time. No, not you, but many people fight the trend all the time. Why? The trend loves you. You just need to love it. You just need to love it. That's my point. Anyways, Danny says AVAXUSD, one day breakout target and validation. Okay, so how about none of that? Avalanche. breakout target. I mean, first off, it has to break out, but I think this one, again, like this is the chance for these things to break out, these highly esteemed pieces of actual dog shit. This thing will break out if it can close back above the same pivot as before, last Tuesday's high at 25.75 or so. Let me just double check. Yeah, 25.75. And then what would be an implied move from there based off of this as what is more or less an ascending triangle? I mean, there is an implied move to be made somewhere around $30, between like 30 to $32, something like this. And of course, where do you get invalidated? You get absolutely bukkake on below, well, this August low here from the 31st is like the very obvious one, but I think that you could also use this most recent price action pivot here at 23.85. Below there, I think that this one's going to start to fall apart. But until then, yeah, this is the chance for a lot of these things to rally. But for fuck's sake, man, I'm not going to lie to you, because I have some very serious reservations with a lot of these things. But hey, if any of these things are going to try some upside, like the links, like the Litecoins, like the AVAXs, like the Cardanos, like the Solana's already doing it, to be fair, it's going to be early on within this week. It's going to be early on within this week. So I kind of look at it as like it's on like a countdown timer. If it doesn't do it before the end of this week, I think that that's bad enough sign in and of itself. Right now is not the time to hesitate for a lot of these shitcoin charts, which are on the verge of breaking out. This is the time for them to really prove themselves, because they're in a position to do that. We've seen many of these, actually, and I'm sure that we'll see many more, in fact, as well. Floodmaster Beast says, "Call me crazy, but I dig your countdown music." I fucking love it, man. I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that many people seem to enjoy it. Also, some people seem to really hate it. Fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. But thanks, man. I appreciate the feedback. At some point, need to find a new song. But I don't know, man. That's going to be a hard one to replace. There was an actual musical composer, what are they called? Just the person who makes it. Producer. Who made that. Like, he's a legitimate professor of music, and he just killed it with that, man. I wish I could get in contact with him again, because can he even repeat such amazingness? If that's like a real track right there. It's a real fucking unique track. Anyways, appreciate it, man. Thank you for the feedback. Gallus says, "Made good money on XLM long with meta signals, and I'm pissed because I saw a bearish divergence on the hourly and took profits too early. How can you tell shit will keep going up after a bearish divergence?" Well, let's look at exactly. Okay, so my question to you, Gallo, would be, what time frame was the meta signal set up on? If it was on an hourly, then yes, it would be wise to look at the hourly. If it was on, let's say, a full hour or a 12-hour or a daily, and then you were referencing the hourly time frame for a signal, then you're lobotomized, perhaps, because an hourly time frame is just not going to have an influential enough signal to disrupt that higher time frame. Now, I don't know what the situation was here. It very well may be that you took that setup on like a 30-minute setup, and then you're looking at hourly, and I'd say, like, that's actually a really good idea. I don't know the specifics of what happened here. Now, the question is basically, so without knowing that, I'm just going to assume that the setup was on an hourly, and then you were looking at an hourly. Look, that's just the way that it pans out sometimes, man. Not every signal is going to play out for forever. In fact, now that I look at it, did you have bearish divergence here? You did have bearish divergence here. Did you get a correction down? You did get a correction down. It just wasn't a super deep correction down. It was ultimately a higher low with continuation to the upside. It's what a bullish chart is going to do. Yeah, I mean, look, not every signal is going to play out. We know this. You're going to get false positives, of course. And that's just the name of the game. The thing is that when you get these signals, they have a higher probability of playing out rather than not. And to be fair, I mean, that one did play out. It's just, it wasn't like a crazy, reversal there. So just kind of setting some, I guess, expectations, and also just genuinely curious, what time frame was what was the original signal on? Because if you were looking at an hourly time frame and you got that original setup on, let's say, anything really above an hourly, I think that was just, well, in my opinion, that would be poor trade management, unless you actually tested that, that theory out somewhere. I'm guessing you probably didn't. So yeah, you got to be consistent with the time frame that you're looking at, and then also keep in mind, like, the statistics are what the statistics are for those meta signal setups, and even they're not going to be perfect as well. Obviously, they're intended to catch those high probability moves. In some cases, you might get significantly more continuation. It's definitely possible. anyways, in this case, I can see right here the daily time frames does have bullish divergence. So again, I don't know what time frame you took this on, but your general easy target off that's going to be the yellow 21 EMA, and that's exactly where you're at right now, actually. And I even think that this one, does this one continue from here or not? Again, it's like this is the real opportunity for a lot of these shitcoins to make their move. On the other hand, this is about where you'd be expecting a rejection if this thing's going to be bearish as fuck. You just got a silver cross to the downside. You just pop up into the silver cross to test it. If it rejects right here, that's a confirmation that the silver cross is going to play out with real downside. And at that point, I mean, this one probably goes for like 30 cents or so. But like I said, I think right now personally, I want to keep an open mind in the early portion of this week with a slight bullish bias, or for a lot of these cases, actually like a decent bullish bias, honestly. But still with the greater sort of bias later on that, a deeper correction is, in my opinion, quite likely. Based off the probabilities, it is quite literally more likely. Again, not a certainty, but I'm gonna go with the more highly probable thing when given two options. That's how I'm always gonna think. It's not always gonna be correct though. Anyways, Danny says, did SUI get a weekly higher low? Your thoughts? Let's see. Perhaps, I guess this would be the chance, but this one has not been this, among the strong recently. Where is it on my list? It's the real question. There we go. All right. SUI at 346. Yeah, it's certainly not among the strong ones that we've seen, but I believe on the monthly, it is still above all major moving averages. Let's double check though. Yeah, it is still above all major moving averages. And that 5 EMA is coming at 330. So as long as you're above there, hopium is still alive. Hopium is still relevant. But to answer your question, is this the next higher low? Is last week's low the next higher low? You can treat it as such, yes. But yes, you can absolutely treat it as such, 1,000,000%. And last week's low is about 311. That simultaneously implies, though, and this, in my opinion, is equally as valuable to know as just it being, potentially the next higher low. It also would imply that if you see any sort of a move back down below last week's low, this is going to fall apart. And you're going to see this thing at least a little bit below $3. But, I think that this thing would really start to fall apart after that point. But until that happens, yeah, bullish biases are, in my opinion, not just okay to have, but it's actually the right thing to have, again, in the short term. Similar to this one as the last one on the daily time frame, you can see it popping right up to that silver cross to the downside on the 55. I mean, this is exactly where you expect a rejection if it is going to be bearish. It's just I do think there's a little bit of freedom here for a lot of these things to try some rallies higher. So, like I said, I stick to those rules on the higher term time frame because over the long run, it's going to keep you on the right side of the trade for the longer period of time. So I'd be treating this alongside that weekly higher low right here as major pivots. Below this region, I think big fucking problems, man. But as long as you're above this region, again, 311, just last week's literal low, there is some hopium here. And, if this one does want to try a leg up, your next area of interest would be about 353. If you can see a daily closure above there, this one should get a pretty big move up to like 370 or so. But first things first, man, it's got to prove itself with at least this pivot right here. Until then, it is still lower highs on the daily time frame. It's just a setup, and it hasn't violated any major regions as of yet. That's kind of the way that I look at it. So hopefully that was helpful, man. Let's see. Old Gringold says, could UPS be forming a bottom on the weekly and monthly? I don't know. Let's see. United Parcel Service. Well, daily's not looking too hot. Is it forming a low here? I think you're probably going to get a pity bounce very soon just by the not very great virtue of retesting a macro low. This one, by the way, is at your March 2020 lows from the Rona dump. That, in my opinion, this is not a sign of strength, okay? This is kind of like the Intel chart almost. It's basically a fucking vertical down move from 240 all the way to 8. I mean, that is brutal. This is a Bitcoin-esque correction or bear market. It's so bad, man. So fucking bad, especially in a market that has been vertical for most things. But yeah, do I think it's going to bounce around this low? So I guess that would be like officially about $80. Probably. But it's likely going to be just a bounce at best. At absolute best, like in my opinion, best case scenario, if this is the low here, you're going to see a long grinding for many years, and then maybe an upside move if it's going to happen at all. But in my personal opinion, I think that that's hopium. This is absolute dog shit right here. But hey, you could see a big bounce and it still be bearish. So I don't know what you're trying to do. If you're trying to be a long-term investor, I think that this is dead money. It's bad opportunity cost. If you're trying to be kind of like a monthly swing trader, I'm just like mixing up all my words, and you get something like this and then you get a big bounce. I don't know, maybe this is in like a year or two from now, but you know, it could very easily bounce to like 120 or so. Maybe that's worth trading. I don't know for you. But do I think that this is putting in a macro low here? If it is, I certainly would not even consider it for another few years. If it's holding onto this low by like 2028, okay, yeah, it might be the next macro low. I think that you're going to get a big bounce from here at some point. I think that that's going to take a long time as well. But I wouldn't be calling any lows here just yet. I think, you know, a temporary low, try a bounce. This thing has lower highs as long as you're below about 145. So, yeah, got a lot of work to do, man. Got a lot of work to do. Simon Kim says, can you give a quick analysis on Aero? Yes, Aerodrome Finance. Aero, I'm guessing it's this one. I'm guessing it is the crypto, not like an actual stock, just because I've seen this one as a request before. Okay, kind of interesting so far because it doesn't look like the same fractal of charts that we've seen many times today already. In the short term, you know, an obvious consolidation as long as you're below that 124 high and above the August 31st low, which is 105. It's not very helpful. Again, I am kind of biased towards most things trying some upside this week, honestly. But this one is a little bit more of, yeah, is not as obvious as the other ones. Look, if it could trade above last week's high, again, that 124 number, I think that you could put in a pretty decent rally here towards like 135 or so. Maybe even just continues on with the general rally. By the same token, I'd really just be I'd be using last week's high and lows as major pivots. Above the high, I think that you generally float back up to these highs here. Below the low, I think that you're generally going to correct back down to about a little bit below a dollar, somewhere around here. Which side would I be biased towards? Like I said, if things are going to try upside, now is the time. Like this early portion of this week is the time. I don't have a super strong opinion on this one. Let's see it from this angle, perhaps. I'm looking for something that's like really obvious. So far, the weekly pivot is the only obvious, it's like super obvious thing that I see. Weekly momentum turning to the downside from, you know, quite a high level. I mean, that's going to give a downside bias, obviously. I guess I'd kind of run with that. I don't feel that strongly about that. Again, just to be very, very candid with you, man. I don't feel super strongly either way. Above last week's high, I feel strongly about that. Below the August 31st low, I feel strongly about that. Anything in between there, I guess a downside bias just based off of momentum, but it's not a strong one for me. Luke says, Bcash on the macro look. Okay. Well, macro for something that's named BCH is going to be to the downside, sir, because, well, the long-term chart looks like this. Amazing chart. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah, as far as, I don't know, maybe a weekly look, at least you're back around this prior high. I think that this one's very, very important right here. This one would be 640 and a quarter if you want to be super exact. Above 640 and a quarter, I do think that you will actually put in a pretty decent continuation move towards 730, 750-ish region. Maybe this thing would even do like a real breakout. I know it's probably sacrilege to say, but you know, betting on like a real upside move above a last monthly major swing high has never been a winning proposition on this thing. So I'd be more inclined to say you're probably going to top out here, to be honest. But then again, I go to the quarterly. Like some of these things actually do genuinely look good. If I'm looking at a quarterly, that's probably your macro look. I guess this would be the time for it to really have a chance. So let's put in invalidation on this one. I guess I kind of would have a bullish bias here. Again, not fully validated until you're back above that 640 high right here. But above there, you know, yeah, I think that this thing can actually run quite a fair bit. On the other side, I'd be very happy to get extremely bearish on this thing with any sort of a daily closure below 525, which is your August low basically, or your last week of August low, or even just back below last week's low is probably good enough as well. That would be about 530. So below there, this thing falls apart and continues on with this long-term trend. I'm not going to be the first person to call a reversal here on something that's been down only since 2017. So I guess I would favor the downside on this one, but hey, I would change my opinion real fucking fast. I'm not saying I support this asset, but this thing has reversed, and there's going to be significant upside if that does happen, or very, very likely to be significant upside if that does happen, I should say. Anyways, Kyle McDonald says, hello, good sir. Could you take a look at XRP on the 4 hour? Sure. Very specific, but that actually makes my job a lot easier. 4 hour time frame, having a nice breakout move to the upside here, but it is hitting a very key area, which would be the 4 hour 200 simple moving average. That's the white moving average right here. If you're going to see any place for a pullback, this would definitely be it. That also implies if it starts to really close above there, this rally could easily lead you back to like 320, 3.25. Again, monthly time frame, you're above all these major moving averages. We've seen this several times now. My personal rule is I don't get bearish until you are at least below the red one. And right now it's actually using the red one to kind of base off of, which is a good sign. So I'd give it a chance. I'd certainly give it a chance here. If we're specifically talking about the 4 hour time frame, maybe get a short-term pullback here. This would be the place for it to happen if it's going to be happening at all, basically between there and let's say about 303. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. But yeah, if you're playing this move, I think if you're particularly on the 4 hour time frame, you've already got the easy portion of this move. Looking for any more from the 4 hour perspective, the upwards boundary. So, to me, that means it's probably going to move up to 320. Of course, it needs to finish this next period above there, so that doesn't close until tomorrow. I know these are much higher timeframes than what you asked about, but for this one, I think I need to look at the higher term timeframes to get a better picture on this one, because this one, again, like this is the chance for a lot of these things to put in their rallies. So yeah, that's what I'd be saying about that. Again, if you do want to be playing the trend, this is the perfect place for another lower high. That also implies if you really start to live above this region, about $3 or 303, let's say, I think you're going to fall through a lot to the upside, like 330, 320, and likely quickly as well if that does happen. So keep a keen eye on this region, because that's likely kind of the razor's edge for this one. Assy says Adobe short-term stock. Okay, I don't think I've ever looked at Adobe. I can tell you their product is really fucking annoying. I really hate how their stupid product works. But anyways, as far as the chart works, I know you asked about short term. I just want to see the long term just to get an idea. Yeah, pretty ugly since 2021. But the reason why I like to look at the very high term time frames kind of gives you an idea of where you add in the grand scheme of things. And this thing's more or less back down around a prior macro low. So this is generally a bouncy region. Anyways, if you're on the short term, again, this is not a good chart here. This is a very clear and obvious downtrend. The question to me is, are you going to make new lows here first, or are you going to bounce again first? You might retest these lows. I don't think you're going to make new lows off of this just yet. I do think you're more likely to bounce a little bit, 360 maybe. I think that this is a terrible chart, but are you more likely to a bounce here than not? Yes, you're more likely to bounce here than not. Again, just by the very not so virtue of getting towards a prior macro low. You're gonna generally bounce off of these regions. You already seen the first attempt over here. This one, might drop a little bit lower to the actual low and then bounce. I don't know, but ultimately, I wouldn't be expecting like this one to collapse through this region. I think maybe you get down to like 310 first and then bounce at worst. Ultimately, you're in a bouncy region overall. Is that short term enough for you? I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I typically like to look at specific time frames as requested by you. But if I had to call it, I don't know, maybe it tries a little bit more of a short term rally right here, back up to the 55. Drops back down, something like this. I think at some point you're going to retest the 200 simple as it comes down. It's not great. It's in a bouncy region. But I would not treat it as like bullish, so to speak. It's just, you're about to get a silver cross to the downside on the monthly as well. I mean, that is just a very rare occurrence on most charts in traditional markets. And on this thing, we've really only seen it during like severe corrected periods, yeah, in the past. So you know, there's that. But generally, the reason why I'm stating that, ASD, is because when you get a major cross like this, a lot of the time, kind of soon after it, or maybe a little bit before, or literally right on it, but just around that time, you generally rally around that cross. And if it rejects from the cross, then you know you got a real problem. If it does not, then, well, you know, maybe you have a reversal, possible. But this thing can't really talk about reversals as long as you're below about 420. So, yeah. What I'm trying to say is you're probably going to bounce from this region. I don't think you're going to go much lower, if at all, in the short term than the current low of what you saw last month or even this month. But I would not necessarily say that I'd be super enthusiastic about it long term, at least. All right, the Schwab. Is it Klaus or is it Charles? Elsa knows Klaus Schwab. Don't you know Klaus Schwab? Yes. What do you know about him? She said not good. He's not good. The Schwab says, could you look at SOFI daily weekly? I posted about this in the long-term investing channel months ago, and it's been on a tear. Cool. Let's see. What is it doing? Elsa asked me this morning, what does that mouth do? It's what that mouth do? Okay, like learn Ebonics, for fuck's sake. Speak right. Anyways, so yeah, man, really fucking good here, man. This is why respecting reversal is very, very important. Higher low, higher high. It's just follow through. You're at your prior highs now, so this is usually a pretty good stopping point. I don't necessarily think it's going to stop here for forever or anything like that. But you know, if it spends some time consolidating around this region, that would make a lot of sense. Looking at the weekly time frame, let's see what it looks like from here, because I imagine there's probably some divergences building up, and if there is, then that's pretty good indication it's going to correct soon. And yeah, it's going to have some divergence here between the highs of basically 2024 and your highs over here. So you know, it might spike up towards 26-ish. A few more times. It might spike this region a few more times, but I do think you're going to enter into a consolidation and then try the real breakout to the upside. You know, so this could take some time. Obviously, and I agree, it's been a really, really powerful run, really, really impressive run. But you know, if it does something like this and then tries the upside, that would make a lot more sense to me than just busting through to new all-time highs from here. Again, just classic sort of classic price action principle. When you're around a prior major high, you're generally going to spend a little bit of time consolidating around there at least. So I think that's kind of what you're doing right here. But overall, long term, I would be looking for it to break that high. This is good. It's good. Anyways, Joseph Baker says, long-time cave dweller, first-time caller. Fuck yeah, man. Love you, bro, as well. RGTI. Okay, this is another real stock. Wow, we are turning into like a traditional market stream, which is like, okay, got it. Daily, consolidating. This one actually very similar to the last one, consolidating around a prior high. In that way. Short term, do I think it comes down maybe a little bit, maybe close to this last price action pivot low here at like 1380, 1375? Definitely possible, but overall, this one's setting up for, I think, another move higher. Maybe even already. That quarterly would look really good to me if it closed above last quarter's high, which is 1530. So if you wait another 22 days and it's above there, so that's pretty good, damn good indication. But in the short term, actually, I'm biased towards this one coming down a little bit. So I don't know exactly what your sort of timeframes are on this one, but I actually think that's going to come down again to that, like a little bit below $14 in the short term. I'd only get bearish on it if it started to close below about 13-ish on a weekly. Below there, I'd start to get bearish on it for, big corrections down to $10 or so. But until then, this is consolidation at the highs to me. In an uptrend, I'm going to always like that. So fair enough. Just short term, I think it corrects a little bit more. But yeah, if it does take out that $13 number, I think that this turns into a big correction down to $10 or so dollars. Maybe a little bit lower, sir. Joseph Baker's back. He's looking at SNEK on Mexio. Okay, now we got some real crypto action, some real crypto shit. I need to get a soundboard of that guy. Real crypto shit. Daily, weekly. Again, another chart, this is the time for a lot of these things to try their rallies. This one already kind of bucking the current, boundary to the upside here. I think that this one tries a little bit higher, honestly, maybe towards like 4.5 weekly. We've seen similar charts to this many times already. As long as you're above last week's low, I think that you can put on the bull goggles in the short term and expect, some continuations on these rallies. Anywhere below last week's lows on a lot of these charts, and I would look at this as actually falling apart back down to 0.3%, maybe even lower over time, but back down to about 0.3% if that were to happen. But for right now, like I said, this is the time to give these things the benefit of the doubt, because if they're going to try their rallies, it makes most sense to happen kind of this week, I suppose. So we shall see. Daily time frame right here. I mean, I think that this one tries. Yeah, I would be biased towards this one trying towards 0.4%, something like this. I don't know what the hell this thing is or what the hell it does. Probably not much at all, if anything. But hey, at least the bi-weekly time frame does have a nice higher low chart. So there is that. And it's been around for, a few years. So it's been around the majority of this bull market, if not the whole thing. And unlike most shit coins, it doesn't just make lower lows and lower highs. This one actually makes higher highs and higher lows. I respect that. Straight Path says, hey, sir, could you take a look at CIFR weekly? Sure, ma'am. CIFR. CIFR mining. Forget what we said about this one last week. Overall, I'm gonna like it. It's just I want to see it really close above that 777 high. 777 high before calling a breakout. And in the short term, is it more likely to correct first and then try a breakout? I think so, yeah. I'd be biased towards this one correcting a little bit more first, at least a little bit below $7. Maybe that even comes all the way down to like $6 or so. But, short-term corrective, long-term, I think it's okay. It's just short-term, I'd like to see it come down, or I'd like to see it come down. I think it's going to come down based off of that divergence. I don't know, mid to low $6 regions. Then we expect maybe, I don't know, in the last couple months of this year, it might try another move to the upside. Still, 777 is the big number to be aware of to the upside. As long as you're below there, no big breakouts have been confirmed. And ideally, we want to see at least already, whether it heads up to the 200 simple at $53.5. I don't fucking know, man. The long term, I can tell you this thing is just, it's down only. It's down only. It likes to go down. Now, if it does start to actually reclaim the 200 simple here, which it actually has done in the past, I guess, kind of, I suppose I would be looking for a pretty big rally up to like $75 to $80. But again, that's well and far away here, man. Whether you get stopped there, whether you get stopped a little bit higher, it's all lower highs. That's kind of my point, man. Yeah, I really don't like these charts like this. Again, I'm not talking about you as a person. You're a great person, but this chart, really don't fucking like it, man. And it makes me a little bit more concerned when I see shit like this rallying, because usually these things don't get their pops until like the very, very end of cycles, and that kind of scares me, to be honest. So yeah. Anyways, when was the last time this thing rallied? Oh, it was in May. What do you know? What happened in May? Leading into April. You already fucking know. What happened over here? December. It made its highs over here. Boom. All the way back down. Yeah. I'm very, very, very cautious of things like this when they rally. Yeah, not great. Not great. But to be fair, even then, this one probably even tries a little bit higher as well. I mean, I would not be surprised at all to see it again, like mid 60s, maybe even $70. Andy VW says IBM on the weekly and monthly. I'm guessing you mean the stock like International Business Machines. I mean, really good long term, but I do think it's put in a major top here. Let's see. Yeah, actually no divergence, to be fair. Maybe on a quarterly. This one been going for too long. Yeah, quarterly does have it 1, 2, 3 drops off of these last major highs. So I do think that you're putting in a high here. I'm not bearish on the chart overall. This is a good chart long term, obviously. And even in the short term, similar to a lot of the shitcoins that we've seen today, I do think it's going to try a rally here. I just don't think that this is the rally that brings you to new highs. I think it's a rally that brings you maybe back to like 260, 265 region, and then corrects a little bit more. And spend some time consolidating. Long term, I still think that the upside is still the most likely direction. It's just I don't think it's going to explode to new highs from here. I think you're in a sideways consolidation for a while, and then you'll continue the upside later on. That can take many months, but yeah, short term, does it try up a little bit more towards 265? Probably yes. Do I think it's going to stop there and then continue on with the consolidation? Also probably yes. Long term, do I think it has continuation? Also, yes. So yeah, how far could it come down and still be okay? I mean, I guess it could come all the way down to like 210 if it wanted to, 210 to 215 and still be okay. But I don't know. Give it a chance to go sideways here for a while, man. Overall, very, very good. If you're long term. Adam Killane says, following you since 2021. Fuck yeah, man. Quant member several months. Hell yeah. Looking for good entry for a long-term hold for a triple key as well. Let me just do all of your financial decisions for you. Let me act as your financial advisor. And don't worry, you don't have to pay me at all, man. Only $5 on a nice YouTube comment. Appreciate it. Sounds like I'm highly ungrateful, by the way. Look, I am grateful that people even care enough to fucking tune in on these streams. But yeah, you know, look, I don't offer financial consultations, financial advisor services. I'm also not a financial advisor. That's not anything that I offer. So anyways, man, you're looking for a good entry on a long-term hold. Again, I know none of the specifics of you that would make me a good authority to give you an answer, even if I could give you an answer legally, which I cannot. So please don't put me in that position. Like, please be aware of this. I humbly request, like, there was this guy in the fucking Discord earlier today too. He's asking me like a very specific question about his positions long term. Like, dude, you can't do this. You cannot fucking do this. This is not what this is about. It's not what this is about. Like, use your brain. Anyways, long-term position on this. Like, look, man, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I like to wait for 10 to 15% downside moves on something like this, and then I put some money to work. I can afford to do that. Maybe you're in a similar position. Maybe you're not. I don't fucking know. I have no idea. Would I be buying here? I wouldn't mind buying here if I just wanted a position, because I would have a 10-year long time horizon. Do I potentially have could I potentially go 10 to 15% underwater? Yeah, it's always possible. Maybe it comes down and fills this gap over here at $500. I don't fucking know though. Again, if you're very, very long term, I don't think nibbling, a little bit here is the worst idea. I just wouldn't do everything here. I would prefer to get a big downside move first, then go big in, and then DCA after that. That is my general strategy for long-term holds. Again, based off of my very personal preferences. Everyone is naturally different. We all have different situations. We all have different personalities. We all have different we have different everything. Different everything. So to answer your question, I can only give you it from my perspective. Would I be DCAing right here? I don't hate it. I think this thing's generally going to make new highs from here. I'm also not going to be selling it anytime soon as well. I'm not going to sell it for at least another 10 years. I don't even know what long-term hold means to you, to be honest. To me, that means 5 to 10 years. If it's Bitcoin, that means 5 years. If it's traditional, it means about 10 years. So yeah, man. I hope that that's taken well. Overall, this is a fucking bullish chart. I mean, again, look at the quarterly. Like, I think that this just goes up more. The what? What? Oh, Swanee's here. What's up, Swanee? Good to see you, man. By the way, I completely forgot to mention this earlier. Swanee actually had a pretty epic interview with Big Cheds, who you probably seen on this channel as well, or maybe you've seen him on this channel, because we had an interview a while back as well. And I don't know, it was really, really fucking good. You get to know Swanee really, really well. It's on Big Ched's YouTube channel. I think he's going to start to interview a lot of people there. And honestly, I think Big Ched's a pretty fucking cool guy as well, man. So check him out. As always, Swanee's the man. You know him well. We all love him. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed listening to that interview, man. That was really fucking good. Anyways, Marco C says Solana on the daily, please and thank you. Sure. Solana, we looked at kind of at the beginning of this stream. I mean, I still think it's good. I still think it goes maybe a little bit higher here overall. Again, I just respect the trend, man. As long as now we have a new higher low. So last week it was around 195. It's now moved up to about more or less $200. As long as you're above there, I'd just be generally looking up and to the right. I think maybe even as high as so. Same rule here. As long as you're above all major moving averages, my personal rule is I cannot be bearish. I will not be bearish when you're above all major moving averages on a monthly time frame. And even that's actually at around 190 now. So some good basis around there. As long as you're above those numbers, I generally treat it as an upwards pointed asset. Below those numbers, that's where I start to look at this thing as potentially, falling apart a bit. But for right now, man, just let it do its thing. This one actually looking demonstrably better than most of the shitcoins that we've seen today, because this one's actually already making that leg to the upside, whereas a lot of the other ones were looking like they're in a position to make a similar leg to this one. This one's already taken it, so I'd say that that's relative strength. And it's kind of funny too, because I think most people just don't even give a fuck about Solana anymore, because it hasn't really been in the spotlight. At least very few people ask about it on these streams, so that's what I kind of gather about it. But this one's now starting to do something different than the rest. So I look at that as good, man. But again, back below that $200 low from last week, that's where I switch around my opinion. I look for a correction back down to somewhere between 170 to 180. Come back to it after that. If you do want to be a pattern bro, then there are some rising pizzas here which do have a higher probability breakout to the downside than the upside. Again, higher probability doesn't mean 100% certainty, but even then it would require closures below like 190, and at that point, yeah, you could get a pretty decent correction down to like 155-ish, 160-ish region, something like that. But for right now, man, this is these are among the ones to just respect, to be honest. Again, I think Bitcoin is more in a short-term rally position than not. So if these things were ever going to have a real chance to rally, now is that time, in my opinion. Yeah, same thing on the daily. Like, just respect the trend. Again, price action pivot, perfectly getting that $200 low. I'll be running off of that, man. Overall fine as long as it maintains above there. Aaron Shah Nazari says, my lord, my Aaron, H-bar, daily, weekly, sure, man. HPAR. Let's see how this one's doing in the grand scheme of things. Again, another one where it's like in the short term, this is its chance. This is its chance. Overall, I mean, it is a downtrend, but, can it pop up here to like 23.5 or 24 cents? Absolutely, man. Momentum freshly pointed to the upside. You're also in a bit of a falling channel. These typically break out to the upside, to be fair. Did get a silver cross to the downside, which I don't love. And again, another example where, more or less last week's low is a big pivot. We've seen this so many times now where last week's low is a major pivot for this market. And as long as you're above there, I generally give things the benefit of the doubt. And most things are that we've seen today. Very few are below, which is actually quite pathetic. But, if you were to come back down below there and close a daily below there, that's, let's say 21 cents or so. Yeah, okay. Then I look at this as like the next major lower high in a series of lower highs. But, at that point, probably corrects well below 20 cents. But, this is the time to give things a chance, in my opinion. The early portion of this week is the time. And there Bitcoin goes 112,400. Kind of a similar position here as well, to be fair. But yeah, second that Bitcoin goes back above last Thursday's high, I think that we're going to see like a pretty decent move. Okay, maybe not the second that happens. I'm not trying to make people FOMO or shit like this. Look, I think generally above this high, you're going to see this rally float up to the 115-ish, 117-ish, numbers, something like this. Anyways, Kenneth says, midterm outlook on iron. When is it likely to bounce? I don't know. Let's see. When is it likely to bounce? If you're more higher term timeframes, I think that this can come down all the way to like $22 and try to find a bounce there. But when you say bounce, like from what I've gathered, a lot of people on the internet think that bounce just means it's never going to go lower than that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you'd probably get a nice bounce there. But yeah, has this thing found a nice high? I mean, again, you got that same sort of situation that we've seen a few other times today. You're retesting an all-time high, just super, super common to pull back from these areas. I think that it could take some time as well. If it finds its way back down to like $22.5, that's completely fine. It's a big percentage move from where you're at right now, but overall, I mean, testing prior all-time high is not a bearish thing. So yeah. Anyways, Gallo says XTZ 2-hour shitcoin. God damn, man, what is up with you and these damn shitcoins? This is like some sort of disease. You don't have to do it. You don't have to smoke the crack. You don't have to ingest the heroin. You don't have to do the meth, amphetamines, but you can do it if you want to. Again, I ain't your fucking dad, man. I ain't your fucking dad. Just my perspective. Can it go to 74 cents? Of course, anything is possible, my man, because anything is possible. Look, you chose an absolute dog shit chart here. Yes, most things are taking this opportunity to rally. Yes, this thing probably will rally as well. And yeah, I do think it gets somewhere around 74 cents, maybe even a little bit above there. But look, man, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It can be so much easier if you just don't trade a literal piece of garbage like this, man. It can be so much easier. It can be so much easier. You don't have to. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it unless you really want to. But that's how gay people get you to suck their dicks. They're like, you don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, you can do it. And maybe you like it. Who knows? Just a thought. Elsa? Why no comments? You're not even listening? All right, fine. Elsa's doing actual work right now. Let's get a Bitcoin boing. We need some boing action, ma'am. Most likely, yes. Anyways, some Bitcoin boing action. I think we're having some Bitcoin boing action right here. I think it's time, after 3 straight weeks of down. But like I said, I'm very cautious in this region right here. Let's just call it 116. That kind of like cuts it to the middle. Some bing bong action, baby. Can you chart dog shit? Oh, Mr. Fiboswani, I'm glad you asked, sir. We've had several such instances today. Let me show you. Oh, there's been a lot of dog shit today. I don't know, ma'am. Let's see. I'm trying to go through the usual suspects here, but honestly, really to me right now, Swanee, most of these things, especially the altcoins, they actually do look like they want to take some leg ups. Tesla's was pretty much dead in 2021. I mean, it's still dead. That's the problem. Cookie says, hey, Crown and Elsa. Some nice hate from Southern France. I hear Southern France is amazing. Bear Nutrition, good morning to you, man. Play with the bull. Get the corns. We need some corns. We definitely need some corns here. Tron? Oh, no. Okay, my bad. I'm reading something out of context here. Let me pull up the comments from a different angle. Okay. Link? Yeah, let's look at Link. I'm curious. I imagine Link is taking this opportunity because like a lot of these things that were looking kind of a little bit more relatively strong last week, they should really be taking this opportunity right here to put in these rallies. And yeah, Link, I'd say that is the same thing. Almost, I would say 90% of shit that we've looked at today in the crypto space, you can blindly apply the same analysis to, which would be, look, as long as you're above last week's lows, this is the real time for a lot of these things to try some real upside. The second that you start to come back down below last week's low, you can read that as an invalidation. You can read that as a pivot. You can call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't care. But that's where things start to change around. Until then, I think it's still better to just have a short-term bullish bias at the very least, personally. Link right here. Look, if I look at the weekly, it doesn't look to me like it's going to really break out to the upside from here and explode. But on the daily, I think that you could extend this move, a little bit more for sure. Monthly time frame, again, you're above all major movement averages. If it did reconnect with the red one here at about, low $20, that's completely fine on a correction. I still think that still, opens up the door for a rally higher later. Yeah, I don't hate this one. It's just in the short term, I'm a little bit skeptical of this rally, bringing it to new highs. Coin, sir, it's right here. Again, these things do get their rallies, yes, but they all fail. They all fucking fail. So you're playing a game where the probabilities are so fucking far against you. Hey, take care, Mr. Fiboswani. Good to see you as always, man. Good to see you as always. Looking at this right here, I think you very well probably just found your next lower high on the August rally to 23.5 cents. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just down only from here, to be honest. Yeah, giving up this much on these rallies is just not a good sign. Technically, yes, if you want to play it by the book, 14.5 cents is the big number to beat. Below there, fully confirm that this thing is going to do what it likes to do, which is go down and be a piece of absolute dog shit. Until then, I mean, if you want to just really smoke the fucking crack opium pipe, then I guess as long as you're above it, a lot of things, you're going to try their rallies. Maybe even something that is this bad as well could do it as well, I guess. I am not going to read that name. The stream is dying. Move back to Finland like normal people. No way. Not happening, sir. Nice try. Ha ha ha. Anyways. Okay, I'm looking for what I say. Finns are you're a normal Finn. No, you're not even a normal Finn, honestly. Aaron Shah Nazari is back. He says, Sir Crown, or should I say, all good, man. We'll say Lord Aaron. What? Okay, then post the fucking ticker. When ticker? Where's ticker? What's the ticker, Elsa? Huh? If you're going to interrupt me, you better have a fucking ticker, huh? Okay, the best thing to do is put Elsa under pressure. What did he want to look at? Just tell me the name, for fuck's sake. Oh, Google. Okay, she's... All right, well... Look at Google. No, we only do one at a time, for fuck's sake. It's Goog. Look at Google, because this one's probably the best one of those bunches, just because, I mean, it's hard to beat Google, right? I don't know. If it wants to have a short-term pullback here, it kind of makes sense. You know, maybe it comes back down to 225, but overall, this is bullish. It's a fresh breakout. It's going to, very, very likely, it's going to go higher over time. I think you might just pull back a little bit here and then continue throughout the rest of this year. There's nothing bearish about this chart, man. There's nothing bearish. Last week's high, effectively the same methodology that I'm using to judge last week's lows for a lot of these shitcoins, right? So you're basically inversing the chart here. So yeah, I'd effectively agree with that. I think at that point, if you do take out last week's high, you're probably going to see somewhere around 480 to 490-ish region, maybe even all the way up to 510. I think that's the real risk here. But I suppose we'll find out on that really, really quickly here, because if it is going to reverse, you really be expecting this thing to reverse from here and not really any lower. Because as soon as you start to come below last Tuesday's low at 438, that's a second where I look at this chart as a lot more likely, if that were to happen, to come back down and retest these August lows rather than try some upside. So yeah, man, I think that this is kind of like on a razor's edge, as we see with most of these shitcoins too, where it's like a lot of them were right at the point where you'd be expecting a rejection if the long-term downtrend would continue. So that also implies, you know, if this thing breaks that same relevant region, then yeah, you know, we're going to see the opposite happen. So, you know, basically last week's high, yeah, that would be a pivot for me. Absolutely. I'd agree with that 100%. Because that really opens up the doors for a rally much higher on this one. You know, earlier I said 480 to 490. I think honestly, around 5% would look about right. Yeah. But I mean, look, if you see this one fall below last week's low and close, I'd really want to see a higher time frame closure below there. I think that you'll see another run at the blue moving average here and retest that low. And that should send this market back up big time. And when I say big time, I mean, you know, at least 117 for Bitcoin, maybe even higher. Yeah. Anyways, maybe it's a Cuban internet provider. Mine's actually pretty good right now. Or at least it should be, hopefully. Shibley says, lol, you just said okay Google and it probably queued hundreds of phones start listening. Yeah, I know, man. It is kind of crazy that our phones do that, and they really do, man. And I've long had a theory or like a suspicion that my phone is just blindly listening to me at all hours of the day, because, you know, maybe I'll mention something and then I'll see an advertisement for that later on my phone, even though I never searched for it. I've only spoken about it, you know, verbally. And that's actually true. Like, that's just true, which kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that, man. But I guess just privacy is just an impossible thing at this point. Like, just fucking forget it. Our lives haven't been private for a while, and they'll probably just become more and more and more unprivate. Some baby wipes, yes. We need some bidet action going on here. Syrup was done. We decided it's better on pancakes and waffles, and that French toast is underappreciated. Is that a request to look at syrup? I'm actually curious to see what it looks like, because that has been one of the better newer shitcoins. And yeah, it did continue with that rally a little bit from last week, but no, it's still in a consolidation phase. But overall, again, I don't hate it, don't love it here, but definitely don't hate it. more than anything, because it actually does go up for the history that we do have. My question to this one would be, are you going to come back down to 40 cents first, or are you going to bust your way up to 60 cents first? That I don't know. I guess kind of have to have a bullish bias here, but this, and perhaps it could be an issue. Crown, have you ever played D&D with ChatGPT? I have not actually. I've never really played D&D except for the video games like Baldur's Gate 3, which is in fact one of the best ones. Hey, you're right. The stream is kind of having issues. Huh. I wonder what's going on there. I mean, we're kind of near the end of the stream anyways, but yeah, I am getting an error over here. It says no doubt is being... Yours is fine. Have you... Is it live? You're updated as much as possible? All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes, that's why. That's why. All right. You know, guys, I think we're going to shut it off on that note, though. We're kind of near the end of the 2-hour time frame anyways. So yeah, you know, just kind of wrapping up my thoughts on the market. It seems to me like we're seeing a lot of these shitcoins in particular have a bias towards upside. So I really do think that, you know, if you're going to see rallies on these things, right now is kind of the time for that. Bitcoin as well is in a position to do so. However, still hinges, in my opinion, upon its ability to get back above last Thursday's high of 113,420. It's a big fucking number for me here. Above there, I think that, you know, we really could see a pretty decent rally across the market, with Bitcoin getting somewhere, let's say around 116. And then I want to come back to it after that, because I still do have a more downside weighted bias in the more long term. So, you know, I think that whatever rally we get here is probably not going to be like the one that reverses it to all-time highs. Again, I hope that I'm wrong on this, but I'm just reading the probabilities at the end of the day. If there ever was a time, it seems like now is the time. And of course, as we went over on many of these things, also Bitcoin as well. Look, as long as you're basically above last week's lows, I think that hopium in the short term is actually better to be running off of than not. But below last week's lows, that's where that hopium gets shoved out the door, and it's back down to more or less your August lows, and probably lower at that point as well. I mean, that's just continuation of trend, I suspect. So yeah, anyways, it looks like the stream's kind of shitting out anyways. So I'll be signing off on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. It's been a nice little pleasurable Monday morning stream. With that